In the twilight hours of her apartment, Leanna sighed deeply while gazing at her engagement ring. This was the right decision, wasn't it? From the top floor of the luxurious Optima Camelview apartment complex in Phoenix's suburbs, the orange sunset streamed through the large windows, gently illuminating the final wedding preparation documents spread across her desk. The ridgeline of Camelback Mountain painted a beautiful silhouette against the dusky sky. 3 days. In just 3 days, I can begin my new life. The moment this thought crossed her mind, the anxiety she had been suppressing washed over her like small waves against her chest. The ringtone of her cell phone broke the silence. The display showed Patrick. Something troublesome must have happened again. Leanna hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hello, Patrick. Sis, I need your advice." A conversation beginning in the same old way. How many times had this pattern repeated over the past decade? Since I joined Global Health Tech 15 years ago, our family's history had slowly begun to unravel. Our father, Richard, had taught biology at Scottsdale High School for 25 years and was highly respected in the community. His mild-mannered nature earned him the trust of his students. However, 10 years ago, he was forced into early retirement due to a sudden onset of depression. Since then, his emotions had become increasingly unstable, and his expectations for his son Patrick grew abnormally high. Mother had worked as a librarian at the local library but quit to care for father. Quiet and prone to avoiding reality, she had a strong tendency to blindly believe whatever her son said. Lately, she spent her days immersed in gardening, seemingly trying to escape from the family's problems. And then there was my brother Patrick. Despite his excellent high school grades, he had dropped out of community college 3 times. He would say he had big plans, only to fail again. Recently, he had become reclusive, living with our parents in their suburban house. "Did you drop out again?" "No, that's not it. This time it's a real opportunity. Sis, you've got to believe me." How many times had those words led to disappointment? Still, I found myself torn between wanting to believe in my brother and not wanting to be deceived again. I had built a successful career at Global Health Tech, becoming the youngest sales director in company history at age 32. My annual income of $180,000 was the result of maintaining a merit-based approach. In turn, I increased my support for my family, supplementing my parents' pension, covering father's medical expenses, Patrick's tuition, and the mortgage payments on the family home. Every 25th of the month, I would visit home to help manage the household finances. And invariably, the family meeting's agenda would center around my brother's future. I met my fiancé Nilsson 2 years ago at a client party. Working in pharmaceutical research and development, he understood my complex family situation and showed a supportive attitude. "Your kindness comes from your deep love for your family," he would often say. Those words gave me comfort. The wedding in 3 days at Scottsdale's luxury, the Phoenician Resort, would be a grand affair with 150 guests. We decided to cover all the expenses ourselves. I even gave my parents money for simple outfits. This was supposed to be my final financial support for the family. Outside the window, the sun was setting. Shadows gradually deepened in the apartment. I remembered Father's old shotgun I had noticed in the barn during my recent visit home, and for some reason, my chest tightened. His eyes that day had seemed vacant, carrying an unfamiliar gleam. "Sis, are you listening? This time it's definitely going to work out." Patrick's voice brought me back to reality. I could hear father shouting something in the background, with mother hurriedly trying to calm him down. Patrick, what exactly happened? Well, at that moment, my phone battery died. Before I could restart it, the doorbell began to ring. I looked back at the documents spread across my desk, the floor plan of the Phoenician Resort's banquet hall, notes from the florist meeting, and the seating chart for the guests. Everything was perfectly prepared. Throughout my life, I had always strived for perfection. Truth be told, I had initially hesitated about marrying Nilsson. I felt guilty about burdening him with my family's problems. But on the night he proposed, he said, "Leanna, your dedication to your family is proof of your inherent kindness. That's what drew me to you." Those words brought tears to my eyes. The conflict within me, love for my family and the desire for freedom. He accepted those contradicting emotions. After marriage, I planned to maintain an appropriate distance in my relationship with my family. Of course, I would continue providing essential support. But I didn't need to shoulder everything forever. That's what I learned in counseling. But would my family truly accept that? Especially father, who had become increasingly unstable lately. At last week's family meeting, he flew into a rage over something trivial and pounded the table. Mother, as usual, fled to the garden. Later, concerned about noises from the barn, I peeked in to find father maintaining his old shotgun. "This was passed down from your grandfather," he had said. His voice was somehow hollow, with a strange mix of nostalgia and madness. Family bonds can sometimes become a burden. The wedding officiant had said this during our meeting. Those words still resonated deeply in my heart. As my phone powered back on, unread messages began flooding in. All from father. "Leanna, come home quickly. We need to talk about something important. Patrick's life depends on this." A dull pain, like a warning, shot through my chest. The distortion in this family might be approaching its breaking point. Just as this thought crossed my mind, the doorbell rang again, this time with an insistent, urgent tone. Through the peephole, I saw the tense expressions of my parents and Patrick. Mother's eyes appeared tearful, and father's hands were trembling slightly. Yet there was an unfamiliar excitement in father's eyes. When I opened the door, father burst into the room excitedly. The entryway light illuminated his sweaty forehead. Behind him, mother anxiously clasped her hands in front of her chest. "Leanna, we have wonderful news." Father's voice was clearly different from his usual calm tone. I invited the family into the living room. Mother perched nervously on the edge of the sofa. Patrick remained standing, staring out the window. The Phoenix night view cast a pale blue light on his profile. "What's going on at this hour?" "I have the final meeting with the wedding venue tomorrow." At Leanna's words, father leaned forward with even more excitement. "That's not important. We have much bigger news." "Richard, calm down." Mother's voice trembled. "Sis, I finally made it." Patrick turned around. His eyes held a somewhat manic expectation. "Leanna, your brother." Mother spoke through tears. "Patrick got accepted to Harvard." Father's voice echoed through the late-night living room. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. "What?" "Look, this is the acceptance letter." Leanna fearfully took the envelope father thrust forward. Indeed, It bore Harvard University's crest. But something seemed off. We need $200,000 for tuition, 4 years of living expenses, and enrollment fees. Father's voice grew even more excited. But, the wedding is in 3 days. The wedding can be postponed. Your brother's life is at stake. Father's shout made the apartment's soundproof walls shake. Mother let out a small cry. Dad, this. Leanna noticed the date on the envelope. It was clearly an old date. And the signature looked unnatural. Wait. This isn't re-dash. Silence. Father's roar echoed. You always get in Patrick's way. Richard. Mother screamed. At that moment, something gleamed in Father's hand. The old shotgun that should have been stored in the barn. You should sacrifice yourself for this family. The gun barrel pointed at Leanna. In that instant, the world seemed to freeze. The noise outside the window felt like it belonged to a different world. Dad, put the gun down. Leanna's voice quivered slightly. You're ruining everything. Patrick's life. Father's hands shook, making the gun barrel waver. Patrick stood frozen by the wall. Mother covered her face with both hands, sobbing. Richard, stop. Mother's anguished cry. Then the gunshot rang out. With a dull impact, sharp pain shot through Leanna's left shoulder. Blood spattered against the wall. Screams echoed. Leanna collapsed to the floor. As consciousness faded, she heard the sound of the door being kicked in and angry shouts mixing together. Don't move. Police. The last things she saw were her father's collapsing figure, Patrick's retreating back, and her mother's despairing expression. Just before consciousness slipped into darkness, Leanna wondered if this was to be her family's final image. At that moment, various scenes flashed through her memory like a kaleidoscope. The day father first talked about quitting his teaching job. The sight of mother crying alone in the kitchen. Patrick's proud smile as he gave his high school graduation speech. And the monthly family meetings. What should have been warm gatherings in the sunlit dining room, filled with hopeful conversation, had gradually become wrapped in a heavy atmosphere. Her memories stretched further back. Hiking Camelback Mountain with father as a child. His gentle smile at the summit as he wiped away sweat. Sharing mother's homemade sandwiches as a family. The warm feeling of holding newborn Patrick. Mother's whisper, "You're a big sister now." The nights she spent checking on her sleeping brother. Everything had been so happy once. When did this family begin to unravel? Who had made the wrong choices? What, after all, is family? She thought she could hear an ambulance siren wailing somewhere in the distance. As consciousness faded, she heard Nilsson's voice. Leanna. That's right, the wedding was the day after tomorrow. The day to start with a new family. But now, she saw a vision of her blood staining her pure white wedding dress red. Please, open your eyes. Nilsson's desperate voice. Before consciousness completely slipped away, the last image that floated to mind was an old photograph of the whole family. Everyone smiling, looking happy, in that one picture. In the emergency treatment room at Honor Health Scottsdale Osborne Medical Center, Leanna was receiving treatment for her left shoulder. Fortunately, the bullet had only grazed her shoulder and hadn't caused serious injury. Are you really okay? Nilsson, who had rushed to her side, asked worriedly. his eyes mixed with anger and anxiety. Yes. I just still can't believe it. Her bandaged shoulder throbbed dully. The pain seemed to confirm that everything had been real. Outside the treatment room, Scottsdale police detectives were taking statements from Mother. Father was already being questioned in another room. Patrick was nowhere to be seen. A middle-aged female detective quietly entered the treatment room. Her eyes, filled with deep sympathy, turned to Leanna. "We've finished questioning your father. And we've uncovered several facts." The detective's voice resonated heavily in the room. The Harvard acceptance letter was forged. Leanna had somehow sensed it. The unnatural signature. The old date. It had all been a lie. "And we've discovered something even more serious." The detective paused, sighing. "Your brother Patrick has accumulated $150,000 in gambling debts over the past 6 months. Some of the creditors include local mafia members." The strength drained from Leanna's body. "No way. They had begun collecting from your parents. Particularly in these past 2 weeks, the collection attempts had been persistent. Come to think of it, Father had been more unstable than usual lately. Mother, too, had been spending more time immersed in gardening." Everything started to connect. "Richard, your father's psychiatric records show that in addition to severe depression, his grip on reality had been deteriorating. He hadn't been taking his medication properly for several months." The treatment room door opened, and Mother entered. Her makeup was smeared, her eyes swollen. "Leanna. I'm so sorry." Mother's voice trembled slightly. Especially me, we pretended not to see everything." Mother slowly knelt before Leanna. "I knew Patrick was addicted to gambling, knew about the debts. But I didn't want to acknowledge it. I just waited, praying he would get better." Tears rolled down Mother's cheeks. "I noticed your father's condition worsening too. But I believed he would return to his former gentle self. I was just a coward." Leanna silently stroked her mother's head. She felt no hatred. Only deep sadness and something akin to resignation filled her heart. The detective spoke gently. "Your father will receive treatment at the state psychiatric hospital for a while." "What about Patrick?" Leanna asked in a faint voice. "We haven't found him yet. But we have surveillance at airports and major bus terminals. He should be found soon." Just then, there was a commotion in the hallway. "Sis." Patrick stood there, accompanied by a police officer. His face was ashen, with dark circles under his eyes. "I'll tell everything." His voice seemed to carry a resolve she had never heard before. Patrick slowly began speaking, running trembling hands through his hair. "It started with just poker games. Small bets at a friend's house." His voice broke off. "But trying to recover my losses, I got deeper and deeper. Online casinos, illegal gambling dens. Before I knew it, I couldn't turn back. Why didn't you come to me?" Sadness seeped into Leanna's voice. "I didn't want to trouble you anymore, sis. I've always relied on you. This time, I thought I could handle it myself." Ironically, that determination had led to the worst outcome. When the mafia started collecting, I was desperate. I thought I had to tell our parents, but when I did, Dad suddenly changed. Tears welled up in Patrick's eyes. Dad started saying, if we had Leanna's wedding money, everything would be solved. I thought he was joking at first. But Dad's eyes were serious. The acceptance letter. I scanned an old admissions guide and edited it on the computer. When I showed it to Dad, he suddenly got excited. Mother let out a small sob. Dad really believed that if we canceled your wedding, he could send me to Harvard. He stopped taking his medicine, and his condition kept getting worse. The detective quietly took notes. Nilsson held Leanna's hand tightly. I'm responsible too, Mother said in a trembling voice. Recently, Richard would often talk to himself in the barn at night, while maintaining the shotgun, but I couldn't bring myself to say anything. Leanna sighed deeply. She never imagined the family bonds she had tried so hard to protect would crumble like this. Big sis. Patrick called out to her like he used to when they were young. I've decided to enter a rehabilitation facility. Everyone looked up at those words. Treatment for gambling addiction, debt repayment plan. I want to start everything on my own will. I'm done running away from relying on others. Leanna quietly nodded at her brother's resolute voice, which she had never heard before. Outside the window, dawn was breaking. New morning light began streaming into the hospital room, as if heralding a new beginning for this family. The clock in the treatment room showed 5 a.m. Yes, tomorrow was Leanna's wedding day. Everything had changed in this one night. But perhaps this wasn't an ending, but rather the first step toward finding a new form of family. Miss, your wedding dress is ready. In the bride's room at the Phoenician resort, the stylist called out. Leanna gazed intently at her reflection in the mirror. The bandage on her left shoulder was slightly visible beneath the pure white dress. Leanna had decided to proceed with the wedding as planned. Are you sure you're okay? Mother asked worriedly during makeup. Yes. This is my choice. Leanna's voice was filled with quiet conviction. After the hospital incident, many things began moving rapidly. Father Richard was transferred to the state psychiatric hospital, where appropriate treatment began. The diagnosis showed he had developed temporary delusional disorder in addition to severe depression. Patrick voluntarily requested admission to the New Dawn Recovery Center, a rehabilitation facility in Scottsdale. The gambling addiction treatment program and debt repayment plan had already begun. Regarding the mafia-related debts, police intervention had secured legal debt collection agencies' agreement to accept installment payments. Mother decided to live separately, planning to rest for a while at a guest house run by her friend. Leanna. A knock at the door was accompanied by Nilsson's voice. Can I come in? Not yet. It's bad luck for the groom to see the bride before the ceremony. Leanna answered with a smile. I understand. But there's something I want you to read. An envelope slid under the door. It was a letter from Father, now in the hospital. Dear Leanna. As I write this letter, my mind is clear for the first time in a long while. With proper medication, I now painfully understand how madness filled my actions last night. You may never forgive me for hurting you and trying to ruin your special day. That's understandable. But please let me tell you this. You were a wonderful daughter. You sacrificed too much for our family. It's time for you to be freed from that burden. Walk proudly into your new life. That is this father's final wish. With love. Father. As she finished reading the letter, tears rolled down her cheeks, regardless of her makeup. Sis. Patrick, who had received special permission to leave the rehabilitation facility, called from outside the door. "Would it be all right if I served as a witness at the ceremony?" "Thank you, Patrick." Leanna's voice trembled slightly. In the banquet hall, 150 guests were already seated. The air-conditioned room was filled with the fragrance of roses. "We're ready," the wedding planner announced. Leanna took a deep breath and picked up her bouquet. Her reflection in the mirror looked genuinely happy. The bandage on her left shoulder might be a symbol of the new bonds she would carry with her family throughout her life. As she began walking down the aisle, a small murmur arose from the guests. Her dress, revealing traces of bandages, might seem unusual. But that was the path she had walked. And the path she would continue to walk. After the ceremony, Mother quietly drew close to Leanna. "Be happy in your new life." "Thank you, Mom. You'll find happiness too, I'm sure." 6 months later, at Christmas. Father, responding well to medication, was showing signs of gradual recovery. Patrick was earnestly following his rehabilitation program and had started an internship at a small accounting firm. Mother had begun teaching gardening classes and was living peaceful days. And Leanna was truly enjoying life with her new family. "Hey, Nilsson." After Christmas dinner, Leanna told her husband. "Next year, there will be 3 of us." Outside the window, snow was beginning to fall unusually on the Arizona desert.